Welcome to the Centre for Career and Calling, where we bring you information, resources, and food for thought on vocational discernment and professional formation.
Hi there, my name is Kathleen, and I'm here with Saul tonight, and we are talking about the art of negotiation. And I met Saul, who is a graduate of King's from our education program. We met last spring, I think it was, a bunch of other teachers from Chilliwack and from Unity Christian School. And we were talking about offers and getting different offers. And I heard from some other professors at King's that Saul had multiple offers and had to navigate which position to eventually take. So we'd love to hear some of your story, what brought you to King's, and then how you navigated choosing which school to teach at.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I'm Saul Carvajal, and I'm a proud King's graduate, and I teach at Unity Christian here in Chilliwack right now. This is my second year teaching grade 7. What brought me to King's at the beginning was I actually graduated from Abbey Christian. So from here from the Fraser Valley, and Abbey Christian has deep connections with King's. And back then I remember they used to do King's View Fridays, and when they used to fly us out for the weekend. So I did that when I was in grade 12, I think it was in November. And I visited King's, and right away I applied and got a conditional offer and decided to go there. And I did my undergrad, started in Bachelor of Science, but actually ended up doing Bachelor of Arts. And then I did my Bachelor of Education in secondary education. So navigating offers going forward into 2020. So I ended my ed degree during the pandemic. So we actually were doing online school for the last bit of my practicum, and just finishing up everything online. And it was that crazy year. So I decided, I want to apply in VC just to change scenery. And I just thought the backlog for applying to any district in Alberta would have been just too long. And so, I decided to apply, and I went through the CSBC website and saw a lot of opportunities. And I actually applied to 4 different schools, one in the Okanagan and other 3 here in the Fraser Valley. And I believe I applied at the beginning of that week, and that was in May, end of May, when I was still finishing up school. Actually, I had just finished school and I was just graduating. And that was at the beginning of the week. And I got some replies for interviews between Thursday and Friday. And so I got 2 interviews on a Thursday, 2 interviews on a Friday. And I'm not sure if it was my resume or what it was, or just there's also so much need here in BC. But I ended up getting, after each interview, very intense interviews with 4 or 5 people on the screen, would go for more than an hour. And then I would hang up the Zoom call, go to the washroom. And for almost every one of them, they would just call me and say, we would like to offer you a position. We're sending you an offer letter. And here are the perks. And so I think me applying to all 4 and getting offers between 2 days from 4 different schools made it really easy for me to kind of like put them all beside each other and to just kind of see, okay, what does this offer include? Like, how are they different from one another? Because I was interested, to all the positions I applied were the ones that kind of interested me, more like middle school, math and science, and just kind of general, middle school teacher. And I think when I got the offers, it was really easy to see, okay, different salaries, different perks. And it was really easy for me to kind of look at, what they each offered, and to just kind of look at pros and cons. So that was really beneficial.
So even though they were all 4, you applied at all like 4 different Christian schools, right?
Yeah.
So all 4 Christian schools, they still had different salaries for teachers?
They did. Interestingly enough, they all base it off a grid that is set for Christian educators here. And, depending on how many degrees you have, or because me, for having an undergrad and an ed degree, I automatically fall under a different category than people who just do an undergrad and graduate with ed. Because actually in BC, you're allowed to teach with just a bachelor degree. So if schools, especially independent schools and Christian schools, they can allow you to do that, and you can apply for a different teaching certificate with just like that the school allows you to teach with that. But me having an ed degree, I automatically fall under a different category. And even though most of the schools base it off that same grid that are set for Christian schools in BC, based on where they are closer to Vancouver, it almost looked like the pay was a bit higher.
Okay.
And so it did kind of alternate. So looking at the one from Okanagan and then Chilliwack and then Langley, Abbotsford Christian and then Surrey Christian, the pay grid was a little bit higher. It did kind of go up.
Yeah, because of cost of living probably, right?
Cost of living and also, where they kind of wanted to offer you.
Yeah.
And also just a couple of schools offered a moving allowance, which kind of really interested me.
Yeah.
Which the school that
did they advertise that they offered a moving allowance? Because I know
in the letter they did. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because I know when we were talking at the table with other teachers, they're like, "What? You got a moving allowance?" And
so that's the interesting thing. The school that I ended up choosing had never done a moving allowance. And so when I brought it up to the conversation, I said, oh, well, this school, because they were so open about it, all these principals know each other. And so at the end of the day, they knew I had told them, I need some time because I did got some offers. I'm evaluating my options. They said, well, who offered you to? So, it was an open conversation. And so I did mention, oh, this school is offering me a moving allowance. And they're like, oh, we've never done that, but we have a lot of people coming, some people coming from Ontario, some people coming from Alberta. The admin got together and they actually ended up having an moving allowance for that year. So starting on that year, based on our conversation, they kind of did a moving allowance as well.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. So you helped other teachers probably coming in after that.
I did, and the teachers that came in that year, some of them had already accepted an offer, but then they said, oh, now we have a moving allowance. So it did support a lot of teachers from then on.
Oh, good for you. That's great.
Yeah.
Good. And what about as your negotiations? So it sounded like you had a bit of give and take with some of the principals. Was Unity your first choice?
So I would say salary-wise, it would have been either Abbey Christian, Abbotsford Christian School, or Surrey Christian. But subject-wise, so I also had to look at my teaching load. And in these two schools, I would have had to be a full-time grade 7 teacher, meaning I would have had to teach all core subjects. Whereas my options for Unity Christian, they were kind of thinking of splitting subject levels between 2 teachers, meaning I would just teach half the subjects twice in 2 homerooms. So in my homeroom and another teacher's homeroom. And so I think that kind of really made my because I'm thinking of planning. I'm a first-year teacher. I don't really feel like planning all courses for this grade, from the get-go my first year. So that option really did sound better to me, just to teach half the subjects twice, for planning purposes, for professional development purposes, because I could just really focus on those subjects. But I did mention, these schools are offering a bit higher, and so that conversation went back and forth. And so they did kind of end up getting really close to the number that I was getting, closer to Vancouver. I'm not going to say which school, but once that conversation happened, I got a new letter from Unity, and they included a moving allowance up to a certain amount. And, just for gas expenses, or just I would just submit that. And also with a new salary.
That's great. Good for you.
Yeah.
And what about stuff benefits? You've been a student for a long time. Now, these schools are offering you different benefits. Were the benefits the same in all of the schools, or did you have to navigate those as well?
You know what? Actually, the benefits are very similar in all the schools because they all fall part of the, Christian schools of BC. Benefits are really similar across the board. So that wouldn't have really made a difference. They just kind of mentioned, these are the benefits that are available, and they were available right away. I remember, being a student and being struggling with some benefit. I mean, KIMS has also a really great benefit plan, but it
Yeah.
was just really great to know that I could use my benefits right away.
Mhm.
And I had access to them right away, and they're awesome. I had barely had to pay for anything. And so that's been really great because, you think you're going to move to BC, everything's more expensive, a pandemic. So like having access to that right away, really compatible and just really well put together plan was really good, was really beneficial.
Good. And like we're sharing this video with graduating students. So benefits is probably isn't something that most people have thought of when they're thinking about employment options, because they've been on their parents' benefits probably.
Yeah.
So it is an important conversation to have to what benefits are included. So usually medical, dental,
Yeah.
benefits that you're like, oh, this is exciting. I get to
Yeah.
do this, or
Dental and glasses. And it was really funny because coming back here, I had to come back to Abbotsford, and I had to go back to the same dentist that I visited growing up when I used to live here when I was in school.
yeah.
And so I just had my own benefits. So it was really great to just go to that dentist and be like, oh no, it's actually with my own benefits. So even more things were covered. And yeah, as you said, like it was just really great to have that independence and
Yeah.
have really reliable benefits. Mhm.
Yeah, good. And then, I mean, other things to think about, like a lot of places offer like RSPs or pensions. Probably the Christian schools would have, some sort of pension. Most people don't think about that when they're applying for jobs, thinking about RSPs because retirement's so far away. But I'm imagining you have some sort of pension plan with the Christian School Teachers Association.
Yes, we
Yeah.
do. So I'm one of those persons that like really like I know about the plan, and I just kind of know that I am enrolled and that I contribute to it, but I haven't really like explored like the specifics of it. But we have a really good team of admin who just have really dedicated a lot of time for that, because a lot of the staff at Unity, especially new hires, and a lot of my coworkers are around my age. And so they're really looking forward for us to invest in, pension plans that are going to be reliable for us. And so I know, even though I haven't really looked at the specifics, I trust through conversations and meetings that we've had that we are involved in a really great pension plan. So I should really just look into the details.
Well, you got a long time before you retire, but
Yeah.
And what about stuff like raises? Did you negotiate that at the beginning? Like know when you will get a raise and how much this would be?
Yeah. So it's actually really interesting because all of our races happen at the same time for everybody. So there's usually a time in that just happened before spring break where we all put our intentions for work for the next year. And so when we put our intentions for work, when I did it in my first year, so the process is usually you say either you're maybe coming back or you're not coming back or you are coming back, and you have a conversation with admin. And after that, after spring break, if you are coming back, you are offered, it usually happens during the same time between April and May. So it should happen pretty soon. We get our offers again, for the next year. And it shows our raise. And because we are on a grid, and because years of experience in teaching do count, and because a lot of us are doing masters online or about to do masters, like all those things really put you up on a grid. So you every year you are going up on that grid and you get an automatic raise, which is really great. What does happen though is because, I don't know, I think in every position or in every place, you're still very subtle about how much you get paid. And I think me having that conversation on my first year and having come in with a bit of a higher pay, automatically I'm already getting paid more for the second year, which is really interesting. More than maybe peers that came to work with me at the same time. But it's really nice because it's really an open conversation with admin. And the fact that they happen automatically year after year is just really great.
Yeah, good. And so, I mean, maybe your advice to new grads is don't be afraid to have those open conversations, right?
Not at all. I think one of the big advantages for teachers that want to apply from Alberta and want to come to BC is that there's a high demand. So at the end of the day, I've learned through that journey of, negotiating and navigating salaries and options that at the end of the day is your decision. And so, my advice would be to really look at your options and maybe to apply. I think the best thing that happened was that I applied to all schools, got offers from all schools, so I could really look at pros and cons, numbers, and just in general. And yeah, my advice would be don't be afraid to have open conversations. I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to be your salary. You're the one moving here. You're the one that will be working, and it's up to you how you kind of negotiate your way into a school. You do have a lot to say in the matter.
Yeah, that's great. And it sounds like because you did the work early, it's for you year after year with a little bit higher than maybe others that negotiated differently.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people have that fear. I don't know. I feel like in Alberta, that was a really big conversation that, there's a bit of scarcity in positions. And if you end up on a district and you end up in a position, you just take it, and whatever it is, you just want to have a position, a teaching position, because it's just so rare that you would get a full-time teaching position. A lot of my friends still are subbing, and it's been 2 years since we graduated in Alberta, and so here we really have that. It is a blessing in a way. You have that opportunity to just really look at your options and, advocate for yourself.
Yeah, that's good. And what about stuff like professional development, holidays? Some of the perks of, there's definitely perks for being a teacher with summers off and holidays off, but what about other perks that you might navigate?
One of the other perks of teaching in BC is that we get an extra week of spring break. So that's awesome. So we get 2 weeks off during the holidays and Christmas, and then we just got 2 weeks off in March, which was great. And we usually end up a week earlier in June. So that's another perk, we have a bit of a longer summer. So even though we have teacher work week at the end of the school year and at the beginning of the school year, it still works out to have 2 full months of break in the summer. I think I'm really fortunate that my admin team is really all about Pro D. And they've been really, really good with providing us with opportunities. SCSBC and Christian Educators of British Columbia, they set up a conference specifically for Christian educators in BC. So that development is really great because it really ties into things I learned in my ed program, but just practical things that are more BC curriculum related. I did a lot of my practicums in Alberta, so my professional development is very Alberta based, and it was just really great to have professional development based from Alberta BC curriculum, which is very different. So it's been really good. They've been providing us a lot of PD for that.
That's great. Good. Well, I think those are all my questions. Do you have any last words of advice or wisdom for new grads or people that are navigating job offers?
Yeah, of course. I think some advice that, I lived and would like to pass on to new graduates, especially people from the ed program, would be apply early. That's really important, and make sure you have your, profession of your letter of faith and all those things ready, because they do ask for those. try and apply at the same time so that if you do get offers, you can weigh your options right away. Because if you apply very scatterly, then you might just end up with the first option that you get. Be honest and have open conversations with whoever's interviewing you. I think that was one of the main things that really stood out in my interviews, was that I was just not afraid to ask things, and we had really good conversations. And don't be afraid to stand up for your own needs and for your own salary, because at the end of the day, you will be the one who will be getting paid a little bit less in BC, and it's a lot more expensive. So it's really nice to advocate for a salary that will benefit you as a new graduate.
Good. Good. Well, thank you for taking the time to share some of your wisdom and your story. I understand you're now applying for grad school, and we'll have to do a master's someplace. So you've got an exciting future ahead of you, both for education and also for teaching, because that'll put you on the grid too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Automatically. So that would just be great.
Perfect. Good. Well,
thank you for this time. I appreciate it, Kathleen.
Yeah.
You have been tuning in to an offering from the Centre for Career and Calling here at the King's University in Edmonton, Alberta. Till next time.